probably good. Yeah, good thing there. So my name is Barlow. I'm a mycologist. I've been studying and growing fungi for about 12 years. My interest started out from wanting to be able to go into the forest, find fungi, and then be able to bring them back home and then grow them at home. I think there's a shared interest here in that aspect. So today I'm going to do a mushroom cultivation 101 workshop. So we're going to cover a few basics. First of all, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. But so this technique can be used for all saprophytic mushrooms. Saprophytic, they're fungi that grow on cellulose or a lignin-based substrate. So wood, paper, cardboard, yes. Used food products like corn husks. Great. But yeah, so we can grow edibles. I think I pointed out we can grow some culinary, so oyster mushrooms, medicinal, so turkey tails, reishi, lion mane, mushroom cultivation. We're going to look at hessian and cardboard technique first. Then we're going to go into the agar, and then we'll discuss growing onto grains as well. Briefly talking about the mushroom life cycle. So mushrooms grow from spores. So the spores will land on the substrate, they will germinate, and then hyphae will colonize the substrate. And then at some point they'll connect, and then they'll enter a sexual phase. And then, given the right conditions, primordia can form. And then you get the fruiting body. The mushroom's the fruiting body. The hyphae and the mycelium are the actual organism. We can take advantage of part of the biology of that to be able to then, because the whole mushroom is essentially mycelium. It's just in a different form. So we can make a tissue culture as the inside of the mushroom and then grow it out onto a variety of substrates. One of the easiest, and I've recently been kind of excited by how I keep forgetting this technique, the cardboard. It's so simple, but it's fantastic. You can just find your specimen, slice it open. I'm going to make a mess here on my grown. You can kind of cut it, and then these are really hard. Rip it open. And then you can just take chunks out of the middle. For example, I have some cardboard here. So cardboard's really good too because it actually limits contamination. It limits like bacterial contamination, and it limits some of the other fungi that will come in and contaminate your culture. You can just do it as is. You can just grab a bit of cardboard, get it wet, throw your mycelium onto it, or your tissue culture.
Is it important, Caine, what type of cardboard we use?
What kind of cardboard?
Yeah. There's some cardboard, some cardboard contains...
Yeah, this is really interesting. I recently did find a cardboard box and thought, yay, I can use that. And I cut up some mushrooms, chucked it on. A month later, it's like, there is nothing happening here. What is going on? And I just assume it's got an antifungal in some of it, just to limit mold or mildew. Shoeboxes? Don't know. There is a waxy layer on some shoeboxes, so this is just like a box from the post office that I've just ripped up and soaked. In this, I've pasteurized this cardboard. If you really want to make sure that there is nothing on it, you can pasteurize it in 60-degree water for half an hour to an hour. The same with wood chips. You can do the same thing with wood chips. You put the wood chips in hot water at 60 degrees for an hour, and that should kill off a lot of the other fungi and bacteria. I just essentially lay it like that, and then wrap it up, and then you can wrap it up again, and then you can put that into a container and just let it colonise. The other technique I forgot to mention was H2, hydrogen peroxide. You can also soak the cardboard in water that has 1% of the 3% hydrogen peroxide. This stuff, you might have seen it in the supermarket. It's great.
Is there any difference in growth rate between like the surface area where the piece of mushroom you put in with cardboard, like smaller pieces grow quicker?
If you put in, if you put in small pieces, but if you kind of cover the area, it'll colonise quicker. Doing that, I mean, you're going to shock the mycelium for a little bit. It'll then kind of grow out, and then. Okay. How many people went to EGA? Only a couple of them. Okay. I found a beautiful oyster mushroom on the walk the day before EGA. It was growing on a log. Pulled it off. I put it into some cardboard because I couldn't clone it straight away. So, and it's grown out. And I don't know if you can see. That has been sitting on my desk next to my windows, and it's growing fine. But yeah, you can keep it in the dark. As long as you keep it warm, don't let it get cold. I mean, if it gets cold, it's going to slow down. But I just have it sitting on my desk. I've got a couple others that are just sitting in a paper bag somewhere. Got it going as fine as well. The next technique is agar. I use what's called the Peroxide agar technique to clone the fungi. It's really good because it means that you don't have to do pressure cooking and lab grade cleanliness. You just add the peroxide and it essentially becomes functionally sterile. You still have to be clean, but not as clean as if you're in a lab. So, okay, I pre-prepared some agar here. If I try to do it here, it just takes too long. So I'm just going to pour this into here. Thermoses are great, but they take ages to cool down. Okay, and I'll just go through my recipe. Okay, that's getting pretty close to being ready. I use about 200 mils of water. I would sit this in a saucepan and I would boil it. We're just going to pretend that this is hot. Do it when it's hot, when it's like about 80 degrees. Otherwise it will fail. I did a workshop a couple of months ago, and while I was demonstrating I kind of just forgot the temperatures and I added all the stuff and it didn't set. So it's a good reminder. I use molasses. You can get malt extract. You can use Milo. There's also a Nestle malt extract that's really good. I've used it a lot now. I use about half a teaspoon. I actually don't like these containers. I use about half a teaspoon. Depending on the container, it's gonna I probably would have normally used my long spoon, but I forgot it. But that's probably about enough. Give it a swirl. That should dissolve, but it's cold. So that should provide some of the sugars and some of the nutrients that you need. I have found a little bit of Vegemite's also good, but this is optional.
It's the Aussie recipe.
This is one of my recipes. I was reading something about how yeast extract is really good. Like they really love growing on yeast extracts, and I found it was really helpful.
It's got all the amino acids and whatnot that they need.
Yeah, that's right. It's got other amino acids. Thank you. that say molasses doesn't. So that should just fall straight off. Again, we're doing this on the fly, and then you would get your agar. I use this brand agar. You should be able to find it pretty readily. I might just hand a couple around. I hope you are people familiar with it.
We need the agar from just like local supermarket.
Yep. And get a teaspoon. And remember, we're pretending this is really hot, so you drop it in. Give it a swirl. And it'll go this kind of lovely light brown. And the agar kind of makes it a bit cloudy. Okay, we're going to go to this one. This is what it should look like. Yep. Okay, we have to wait for the temperature to get down to about 50 degrees. This is a milk thermometer. These are nice. It's really good. Now you can use either a syringe, or if you can get your hands on some droppers, these will do fine. You just, suck up about a mil and then squish it in. I prefer using the, makes me look more scientific. Normally we'd use probably 1%, so 1% of say 200 mils is about 2 mils. I take it down to 1. I found that because using the peroxide techniques, it shocks the mycelium for a little while. It takes a little while for it to just kind of come to terms with the peroxide and then spread. If you pull it down, I do 0.5%, and I found that they recover a lot quicker, and it seems to be enough. I've had a couple of problems with contamination, but on the whole it's okay. Okay, and then I just add that, squirt it in. Give it a swirl. That should be enough. Then I use these little plastic containers for my agar. You can get them in Woolies, these ones. I don't know, Coles don't seem to stock them. Oh, very good ones. They're the bigger ones, the big square ones.
Do you need to do anything to sterilise them? Or are they quite sterile when they add them?
The general thought process is that anything that comes from a factory is functionally sterile. So your aluminium foil, your plastic bags, they're all usually sterile. They've been through an industrial process. So I would consider these sterile. Certainly for this. I mean, the peroxide in the agar is going to help you make this functionally sterile anyway. I mean, the great thing about doing this is you can do this in this environment and it'll be successful. If you were trying to do this without the peroxide, yeah, you have to be super clean. Set up your containers, make sure that the lids are off. It just makes for a quick, easy pouring. And this amount should do about 16 containers. So I'm going to pour. I mean, when I do this at home, I do this in a glove box. Hopefully I can do all of these. I might run a bit short. Look at that. Into a jar. You don't have to use plastic containers if you've got like the old salsa dip. What's that brand? Sorry?
Salsa.
Yeah, the Doritos brand. I think I was thinking of another one, but yeah, that'll do fine. They're really nice because they've got a nice width to them, so that's a good surface area. Yeah, because the plastic is a problem. Like plastic, there's so much plastic used in growing mushrooms, and it's becoming a hot topic. How can we get away from all this plastic and find alternatives? Cool. Any other questions at this point? While we wait for this to cool.
Are we just imitating a petri dish? So
That's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. They do the same thing in the lab. Like you go work in a microbiology lab, it's essentially the same stuff. It's just that we're using supermarket products rather than you go into a lab and you've got a recipe of your Na4, SO3, whatever, and blah blah blah. And you add all the nutrients yourself. So this is, I guess, another leads into a point is if you want to work with spores, yes, you have to be super clean. You can't use this for spores because the spores will get killed by the peroxides instantly. It's just like pop. So this technique is only good for taking tissue culture. So the thing is to try to get mushrooms that are as fresh as possible, nice and healthy, good mycelium. I wouldn't use old mushrooms to try to do this. Just no. You'll get other contaminants. Yeah, in fact, it's cobweb mold. I tried to do a thing recently and I just got overrun with cobweb mold. Not good. We've already sliced it open, broken it open. I try to find the bit that's the furthest inside. So in this case, I don't do big chunks. It's quite okay to get ridiculously tiny chunks. I use a triangle shape. I'll try to do it like this. Like so. It's actually quite a big piece just so you can see. And then you drop it onto the agar. seal it. I had some. This is just cling wrap. This is cling wrap that I just get a knife onto and cut it. In a lab, you'd use what's it called? Tiber? Parafilm. I was thinking of the brand. I don't like parafilm. There's something about it feels wrong to me. And I like cling wrap. Again, it's a plastic, so I don't know. And then you seal the container like that. So sealing it should then keep out anything that'll get in mites, because mites do get into petri dishes.
Could you use something like a micropore or something like that?
Yeah, you could use that. Yeah, get that from the pharmacist. I did have some. I think I left it in my backpack.
You just put it in like a sealed bag.
Yes, you could. Yeah, rather than using the cling wrap, you could just put it straight into a seal, like the Glad bags. Yep, it's fine. And that's essentially it. And then you can put that into a dark place. Light breaks down hydrogen peroxide. So if you leave this out in the light, the peroxide will get broken down. It's up to you. I do leave them out. It doesn't seem to really make too much of a problem.
What temperature would you say is best for growing?
About room temperature, 20 degrees, however warm you keep your living room or bedroom. Or, if you were to put these in the fridge, they'll still grow, but the rate slows down quite a bit. And then hopefully in a couple of weeks, it'll look like this. I'll hand these around. This one here is actually starting to fruit in the faux petri.
So what is it that we've actually got in those? Is that the mycelium?
That's the mycelium.
Has grown, and there's some fruiting occurring as well?
Yes.
After only a couple of weeks?
That one's actually about a month.
Okay.
No, because I haven't dealt with it.
Yeah.
So it gets to a point where it starts to run out of nutrients, and it goes, okay, I'm running out of nutrients. I need to form a fruiting body here so I can spread my spores, and away it goes. So those people who. So the next common question is, okay, I've got my agar plate and it's colonised. Now what? You've got a couple of options. I will then grow, say, my oyster mushrooms or my shiitake mushrooms out onto a mixture of grain and wood chip. I'll put the recipe up on the slide for you. So I will just get a box of birdseed. I'll go to my local council mulch area and I will mix like 50-50 birdseed with the wood chips. I then soak those for 24 to 48 hours. I use a little bit of washing detergent to try to help the wood kind of soak up the moisture. And then of course you drain and rinse. I mix in a tablespoon. No, that's meant to be a teaspoon. A teaspoon of gypsum and a handful of just wheat bran. So for extra nutrients. And the gypsum helps with calcium. Then I pour these into a jar and I'll pressure cook them for 30 minutes. And you end up with something like this. Then you take your colonised culture, crack it open.
So just a quick question on the grain recipe. What volume of organic washing powder are we talking? Because I'd hate someone to put the entire box in.
Don't put
there.
the entire box in. I'd probably put in half a teaspoon. Like, you don't need a lot.
Good.
You know, it kind of helps to collect a lot of the dust matter that's in the grains and on the woods as well. And then you just need to rinse it a few times to make sure you get rid of all that. And then the process is essentially, when you pressure cook it, it means that these are sterile. These are really easily contaminated, so it's best to do it in as clean an area as you possibly can. I use a mixture of methylated spirits and water. So in this case, it's 400 mils of methylated spirits and 100 mils of water. So you can't use the pure methylated spirits. You need to add the water because then it helps with the osmotic process of drawing in the alcohol, and then that should just kill everything on the surface. So really, with this surface here, I should have sprayed the surface first and got it nice and clean. You need to be in an area that has minimal airflow. If you can do it in like a glove box, I should have included a photograph, but you can Google that. Or just a clean area. Sorry?
Old fish tanks that can come up.
Old fish tanks? Yeah, cool idea. Yeah. In a lab, you would have your laminar flow hood. It's blowing air onto you, and then you'll do it there. So you need to do this quick and fast. I will pressure cook it with a bit of foil on top. The foil helps. You can quickly flip it up, get your bit of mycelium and drop it in. And then you seal it again. And then I use electrical tape just to kind of make sure it's nice and airtight.
No lead.
Sorry?
No lead.
No lid.
Happens on the jars. When they're in the pressure cooker though, it doesn't all the pressure on that.
No? What? No, it doesn't pop the lid. This is just a foil lid. It's just like aluminium foil that I fold up and just cover onto the jar. You can use, in this case, this is sugar cane mulch. And so I've just mixed one of those jars, the oyster mushroom jar, through the sugar cane mulch. And within, I think this is 2 weeks. So they've already got little mushrooms growing. I'm going to hand this around as well so you can have a look.
How many would you do that with?
You should get quite a bit. Sorry? I've never actually weighed it. Yeah, probably about half a kilo, maybe a kilo. Depends how you look after it. You know, if you kind of get one good flush and then don't look after it, so it can flush again, it won't get much. Yeah.
And would you fruit that in a fruiting chamber or something like that?
These are fruits so aggressively that you could just sit these on a table and just mist it every day, and you should just get a good big flush. Yeah. Some resources if you want to look into it deeper. There's some fantastic books out there. I don't know spooky things so much, but the mushroom cultivator by Paul Stamets is fantastic. Possibly getting a little bit hard to find. You won't probably find it in many shops these days. This one has been for a long time considered the Bible. It's GGMM, growing gourmet medicinal mushroom by Stamets. You will see this around. It's highly regarded. So, mycelium running. It's a kind of a mix of an essay with some growing tips and identification guide. But he goes into all of the more kind of guerrilla, haphazard growing styles. Like, and I meant to actually pass that around. Where is it? Oh, I can't see it. I lost it. It doesn't matter. But you can grow it through hessian as well, or through burlap, the hessian bags. Hessian string, you can wrap it around trees and try to introduce it to stumps, like turkey tails or shiitake, for example. So this is great. Probably the more recent addition to the library is Radical Mycology by Peter McCoy. This is amazing, and he covers so much stuff in here, mushrooms, and even branches out into lichens, which is kind of very adventurous, and I haven't looked into that yet. But he talks about the medicinal applications, the environmental applications. It's fantastic, well worth it. And Organic Mushroom Farming and Mycoremediation by Trade Cotter. This is also an amazing book, really good. Particularly if you want to try to get organic, this kind of thing. Yes, because mushrooms do have a tendency to pick up kind of stuff from the environment, and if you want to try to keep it as organic as possible. Cool. Thanks, everybody.